Hey, what is up? And welcome to Myth Monday. This is Where All the Ladies At. It is a podcast where I dive deep into legend, history, and myth and spotlight women in all three departments. My name is Kim. I am your host, and I'm sorry if you... anyways, I'm your host. I am a history nerd, an archaeological groupie, and a novelist. So I love me some history. I love me some myth. It is a wealth of information that you can use to do a great amount of things. And I'm also a feminist, so I really think that sometimes women get the short end of the stick when it comes to history, and that's just not fucking cool. Yeah, and that's what I say. So this month I have been covering Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, mostly with a leaning towards the Asian portion. But still, I want to celebrate their voices, celebrate their history, celebrate their culture as much as I can, because I think everybody, every culture, every story is a part of history, So no matter what people say, that's the way it is. Oh, sorry guys, I got something in my eye. Anyways, yeah, so that's what I'm doing this week. This week we are talking about Nang Kwak from Thailand on Monday, and on Thursday we're heading to Japan to cover a really awesome lady, so make sure you check out that episode as well. As always, before we get started, let's do some housekeeping and shameless plugging. If you want to reach out to me, you can do that. I have social media. I have Facebook, I have TikTok, I have Instagram. If you're not into social media, I do also have an email that you can reach out to me through. And yeah, if you want to support the podcast, like, comment, share, follow, subscribe, do all those things, it would be amazing. Any and all engagement with the video or audio shows the algorithm that people are interested, and then they push it out to more people, and that means more people can come join our community and talk about these amazing ladies. If you want to do a little cash, you can do that as well. You can go to my Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon, which I have set up as well. Every little bit helps. I am trying to get better equipment. I am trying to make it so that maybe I can do more stuff, because there's so much more I would like to do. But I have, got to pay the bills too. So if you do have a few bits of cash and you feel that what I give is worth it, by all means, please visit those places. If you want more on this topic and so much more, make sure you check out my Medium publication. I am a writer by trade, so therefore there is a lot of stuff over there. And if you're into magical, mystical, spiritual stuff, you can also check out my other podcast. It's called Our Mystic Road Trip. That's it for the shameless plugging and housekeeping. Now we can get talking about Nang Kwak. So here's the thing. Nang Kwak is from Thailand, obviously. So I always want to dive into the culture, the land, a little bit of the history, way women were treated within that culture, because as I always say, I think the more you know about the culture, the more you can understand, for in this situation, the myth and where women stood in it, and why Nang Kwak was so important. You have to kind of understand and see where. Sorry guys, I got a mosquito bite and it's bugging it out. Anyways, so I think by understanding these things, you can really get a much better grasp of what the culture and the people and the gods were like, right? Oh, ouch. So let's get started. I'm kind of pausing all over the place, guys. I'm sorry, my brain is a little frozen, but we're gonna work through it, because I know once I get started talking about these amazing people and things, that I'll wake up a little bit. I promise. Anyways, let's start with the land and people of ancient Thailand. So Thailand historically was known as Siam for a long time. And it's pretty intertwined with migration and trade and spiritual evolution. The Thai people originally came from the southern region of China and migrated down over the centuries, settling in kind of like these fertile river valleys. And that's where modern Thailand is now. This was probably about the first millennium CE, Common Era. So, by the way, like I use CE, not BC and AD, because that just feels more right to me. So CE would be the equivalent to AD if you're still using those terminology. So this migration was driven by a lot of different things, right? Environmental changes, population pressures, maybe like a little search for more hospitable lands. And so the Thai people really established themselves and started building communities centered around agriculture. In particular, they really focused on rice farming, and that became the backbone of their economy and society for a long time. But Thailand wasn't just isolated in that development, right? It was a trade hub too. It was because of where it was positioned upon a pretty important maritime and overland trade routes, because it connected China and India and the Khmer Empire, right? So Thai merchants traded goods like rice and spices and ceramics and textiles, and that really allowed for a cultural and economic exchange that shaped the kingdom's identity. The interactions brought new ideas with them. You know, this included religious and philosophical concepts. Like, I feel like that's too low. Hold on. All right, let's try that. That seems right. Brought new ideas. So it brought philosophical concepts from Hinduism and Buddhism, and it blended into this really like indigenous belief that was very animistic, right? So by the time Nang Kwak emerged, Thailand had pretty much become like this melting pot of influences. You know, the Khmer Empire ruled parts of Thailand before the rise of the Thai kingdoms. They brought Hindu deities and iconography into the region. Indian traders and Buddhist monks introduced Buddhist teachings, of course, and that Buddhism eventually became the predominant religion there. However, a lot of local animistic traditions still kind of remained strong during the whole time, and this led to the creation of Thai deities like Nang Kwak, and who kind of retained elements of both Hinduism and Buddhism, but were still very deeply rooted in the local spiritual practice, right? Because the Thai economy really relied heavily on trade, deities that were associated with commerce really held kind of a big spot in their lives, right? That included Nang Kwak, who is like the goddess of like prosperity, right? And that's why statues of her pop up, and the widespread worship kind of reflects the practical nature of the Thai spirituality, right? Religion wasn't not just about moral guidance and that stuff, but it was really about the tangible benefits of everyday life, you know? And so we have a little idea of what it was like in the culture, but let's really dive deeper into what it was like for women in the ancient Thai culture, right? So there was a patriarchal structure, but women played a pretty crucial role in economy and family life and community affairs. Unlike a lot of other cultures, particularly like the more Western cultures, their women were strictly pretty much like domestic roles, right? Thai women were actually pretty active in the commerce. They managed markets, they ran businesses, they participated in trade networks. Even historical records and oral traditions suggest that women could inherit property, they could engage in contracts. They played a pretty influential role in the family's like financial dealings. On top of that, women were not limited to economic roles, right? They served as healers and midwives and warriors in some cases. Obviously, formal military service was reserved for men, but there were also accounts of women who like took up arms during times of war, right? Particularly when they were defending their communities. Queens and noble women in Thai were also known to wield political influence. They acted as regents and advisors to kings, right? In mythology and folklore, you could see the more complex and sometimes very restrictive view of women. Many female figures in Thai mythology embodied ideas of beauty and devotion or purity, and this really helped to reinforce that patriarchal, traditional gender roles, right? Some myths even portrayed women as temptresses or cautionary figures, right? And this really kind of warned against the dangers of desire and disobedience. Nang Kwak, on the other hand, who's the goddess we're going to be talking about, stood apart kind of from those traditional portrayals. Unlike those other goddesses, she really was more about the economy. She was more about financial stuff, right? She was into prosperity, and all that. So you can see how there's a dichotomy there. Sorry, guys. When it comes to this goddess. So now we have a little idea of what it was like for women, what it was like at the time, in the culture. Let's really get into Nang Kwak. She is by far probably one of Thailand's most beloved and recognizable figures, right? Especially when it comes to like merchants or business owners. She's often kind of depicted as this really like graceful woman, and she's seated in a very dignified and welcoming posture, right? She's dressed in traditional Thai attire, of course. Her presence is both elegant and inviting, and that kind of is why it's meant to embody the idea of good fortune, hospitality, commercial success. Her most defining feature is the beckoning gesture, right? Her right hand is usually raised, palm facing downward, and mimicking the traditional Thai motion for calming someone forward, right? So facing downward, palm is facing downward, and kind of like that, right? So, and that's different for us from the Western parts of the world, right? Because for us, this would be like beckoning, right? We would have our palm up and we would go like this. But in this culture, it's like this, right? So, the movement is meant to symbolize like attracting wealth and customers, right? It said that merchants once waved to passing traders to stop at their stalls, and this is kind of the gesture they would use, right? Her left hand rests gently on her lap, usually. Sometimes it's cradling like a bag of gold or a sack of coins, and that's more about her association with financial abundance, right? Some depictions even show her fingers lightly touching the money, as if it's blessing it, and others portray her simply holding it. It just depends on the imagery you're looking at. Her clothing is traditionally red, and of course, anybody who's kind of researched into the Asian cultures, a lot of them have red as a symbol of like good luck and vitality and really auspicious energy. It's really associated a lot of the time in Southeast Asian traditions with wealth, right? Because it's believed to have this magnetic pull for success. In some statues and paintings, though, she may also be like adorned with gold or white. These are because purity, prosperity, all those kind of things go with that color. When we look at her face, it usually exudes like this, like kindness and warmth, almost like a serene expression. And unlike, I think that her imagery shows that unlike other deities, right, she really, other deities like demand like very rigorous devotion, but she's a little more laid back. She's more of a gentle protector, right? She wants to bestow honor and wealth and success on those who really honor her, but she's not trying to like make you do it. She also has like intricate jewelry usually. That includes things like gold bangles, earrings, necklaces, and that's of course talking about riches, right? She's supposed to be the bringer of riches, so she would deck herself out. But they also symbolize like the wealth not only for herself but for others, right? And more ornate depictions, like more fancier, more intricate, usually has like a golden halo or radiant aura. And that's like her divine power, right? Some images also include lotus flowers, which could be, it's a very common Buddhist symbol, and that usually represents purity and spiritual prosperity. So that would definitely tie her in with folk beliefs of the Buddhist traditions. I think while there are similar figures in Southeast Asian cultures, she's kind of still uniquely embedded in Thai's culture, Their statues, their amulets. Some shops include her in the logo. There's definitely some holding on to the fact she shapes the way business and business people seek success, right? When we come to the imagery, we kind of talked a little bit about them, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into it, right? So you have the beckoning hand, right? And that's the downward, the red clothing, that's it. Offerings. Now, when it comes to offering, devotees of Nang Kwak tend to like offer red drinks, sweetened red soda, flowers, incense, gold leaf to gain her favor. The red beverages are meant to symbolize life force, abundance. I mean, if you think about it in a way, like blood, right? And so red blood is red. Well, when it hits the oxygen. That was a nerdy moment. Oh my lord, that was a nerdy moment. But anyways, placements in shops and many Thai businesses display an Kwak statue near the entrance, and that kind of is thought to attract customers and ensure steady sales. And as I said, her worship is kind of a blend of Buddhism and folk spirituality. So there's chants and there's prayers. She's not really considered a Buddhist deity, but her presence in the Thai religious practice is an example of how, the more traditional spiritual, like folk religions really do, coexist with the Buddhist tradition. So when it comes to archaeological historical evidence, Nang Kwak is the Thai tradition, like so many of those traditions, are a very oral tradition. But there is some records that suggest that maybe her origins may be linked to the Indian deities of prosperity. There's some notable similarities between her and Lakshmi, and that's the Hindu goddess of wealth. Also, like Phra Mai Dorani, that's a Buddhist earth goddess. She's often depicted with like flowing water symbols, abundance, right? And it's not surprising because Thailand's historical ties to Indian culture and religion through trade and migration are very evident, as I said at the beginning. Archaeological discoveries provide a little bit more insight into her long-standing presence, right? There's artifacts depicting female figures in beckoning pose, and these have been found in ancient Thai temples and marketplaces, and that really shows like there's that the image of prosperity bringing women has been part of the region's kind of spiritual landscape for a long, long time. Of course, these were obviously influenced by Indian iconography. That word always stumbles me. But then just kind of thrown in with some like Thai stuff, right? And her story has evolved over time, but she's still pretty well known in Thailand, So, in the broader sense, I think when it comes to her in the broader Thai mythos, unlike, the grand celestial deities of Thai and Buddhist mythology, she kind of occupies a more personal and practical space. Guardian of merchants, protector of livelihoods, all that stuff. And we've talked about, a couple of the other gods. Nang Kwak, though, is kind of this goddess of the people. She's not shaping the universe. She's not having anything to do with that divinity, that type of divinity. She's more about the people, right? And that means she's more tied in with the daily life. And that could be why she has lasted so long after people have drifted away from the older religious practices, right? So with that being said, it is time for a story. As I always say, these are stories that may hold a little piece in the mythology, but I have taken a little liberty and added a little bit of stuff to make them a little bit more I don't know, not interesting, but a little more like action-packed. I don't know what the word is, but I promise you I have stayed true to the meanings and everything. So with that being said, please grab your beverage of choice, whether that be a cocktail or a cup of cocoa, and your blanket, and curl up, because now we're going to tell the story of Nang Kwak. All right, so once upon a time, in a bustling Thai village nestled along the Chao Phraya River, there lived a humble merchant daughter, Supawati. Together they traveled from market to market, selling fine silks, fragrant spices, and precious wares. Their goods were exquisite, yet fortune often eluded them. Some days their silks shimmered under the sun, admired but untouched. Other days, their spices filled the air with warmth, yet the coins remained sparse in their patches. Despite their struggles, Supawati remained kind and unwavering in her faith. She often spoke to the river spirits, leaving small offerings of flour and rice, hoping they would carry her wishes downstream to the gods. One fateful day, while traveling through the sacred forest, father and daughter stumbled upon a revered monk known as Fra Savali. His presence was almost otherworldly. His robes glowed in the dappled sunlight, and a sense of peace radiated from him like ripples in a still pond. He was famed for his blessings of abundance, a monk so virtuous that even the gods ensured he never went without. Supawati, feeling an unseen force tug at her soul, knelt before the monk and humbly offered him water, rice, and the sweetest fruits they carried. Though they had little to spare, she gave without hesitation, believing that kindness was its own reward. Fra Savali gazed at her with knowing eyes and smiled. "Child, your heart is pure and your devotion is unwavering. From this day forth, wherever you go, prosperity shall follow." From that moment on, their fortunes changed. Wherever they set up their stall, customers arrived in droves. The fine silks sold as fast as they could unfold them. The scent of their spices carried through the streets, drawing eager buyers. Coins filled their bags, their humble trade flourishing beyond imagination. Word of Supawati's blessings spread far and wide. Other merchants marveled at her luck, whispering that she must have been touched by divine favor. Over time, artists began carving and painting her image, a graceful woman with one hand raised in beckoning gesture, calling forth fortune and abundance. Her likeness was placed in shops, market stalls, and homes, believed to summon the same prosperity she had once received. And so, Supawati's spirit became known as Nang Kwak, the beckoning goddess of wealth and success, forever blessing those who honor her with sincerity and generosity. That's a little story. I think I think no matter what happens, I hope you enjoyed. From the ancient legend to modern day business charm, she's kind of like continues to be a guiding presence for many people that are seeking prosperity. You know, I guess it's just a very sweet, humble story, and she is very powerful. I don't know, what do you guys think about Nang Kwak's tale? If you've ever been to Thailand, tell me, have you ever seen like her image in a shop? Let's know, let's share the information, and honestly, if you enjoyed today's episode, guys, really don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, share with your friends, and then keep joining me, because we're going to keep talking about great ladies in history and myth. I really want to build a community where we can really honor and respect these women for the things that they brought into the world, and really honor their stories. And that's kind of what I'm all about. So I hope you enjoyed this on Nang Kwak. We have one more week. I'll be sad to see the ladies go, but I'm really excited for next month's stuff as well. But we still have a week, so let's not jump into that yet. I hope you enjoyed Nang Kwak. I hope it inspires you to go check out more about Thai religion and the goddesses of that wonderfully beautiful country. One day I will get there. Yeah, as always, if you want to reach out to me, you can do that through all my socials. If you want to support the podcast, like I said, like, comment, share, follow, subscribe, do all that stuff. If you want to kick cash my way, you can do that through my Buy Me a Coffee or my Patreon. And if you want more on this and so much more, I do have a Medium publication. And also, don't forget to check out my other podcast if you're into magical, mystical, spiritual stuff. It's called Our Mystic Road Trip. And that's it. Until Thursday, guys, have a wonderful week. And as always, stay curious, stay blessed, stay safe.